Welcome back. Many thanks for staying with us. It's been almost 24 hours since the Special Prosecutor nominee Martin Amidu faced Parliament's Appointments Committee. Now, whilst the committee works to recommend approval or otherwise to Parliament, his future is already generating discussions in the media space. There are concerns that Ghana's first Special Prosecutor nominee Martin Amidu will walk away from the job. Former Chief of Staff Dadzie predicts this will happen as soon as Mr. Amidu's independence is compromised. The former Chief of Staff under the Rawlings presidency expressed his agreement with Mr. Amidu's longtime colleague John Indebugri. Now that is only a matter of time until the man who has become known as the citizen vigilante hands in his resignation to the president and walks away from his role as Ghana's first ever Special Prosecutor. We'll hear from him shortly, but first, some sound bites from the 9-hour vetting that happened.
What will be different between the Special Prosecutor's office and whatever office of law enforcement? And the reason why I agreed to accept the nomination is that this is a new office. Corruption has done so much damage to this country. In the conflict resolution, it is called structural violence. It's an invisible violence that kills millions without anybody seeing it. Taking millions of cedis for oneself under illegal circumstances deprives people of good health, education, and all the developmental facilities you can give. So what I want to do is to be able to set up a credible institution with a credible culture, which will be able to block the leakages and the seepages. If I'm able to do that, I don't care even whether I am not able to prosecute anybody. And part of the law says that it is preventative, right? So if I can put the machinery in place to prevent these leakages and seepages, I can assure you that if we succeed, we won't need foreign aid. I will say, with knocking my chest, that the amount of seepages and leakages at the ports, if we were to close them, our budget will not need foreign assistance. And that is why I accepted this job, to try to help the people of this country, to see whether what I started fighting as a child can at least be realized to some extent, in the hope that whoever takes over from me will keep the spirit. And so I can go to my maker knowing very well that my colleagues who died during the PNDC did not die in vain. And that when I beat them, they'll say, Martin, you did well for us, even though you didn't succeed. Thank you. And that is where President Roosevelt talks about the man in the arena.
Mr. Martin Amidu there yesterday, he dominated the news space. And this morning, he's giving people a lot of things to talk about. I have in the studio Abdul Kudus Hussein. He's the communications officer of the Ghana Anti-Coalition, Anti-Corruption Coalition. Yes. Yeah, thank you very much. You're welcome.
Thank you very much.
Yesterday seemed to have been a very historical day for a lot of Ghanaians, and they've been talking. What are your impressions from the vetting so far? Questioning, answers, etc.
Yeah, first of all, I'd like to use the opportunity to thank the President first for nominating Martin Amidu. As a coalition, when the nomination came, we felt it was a step in the right direction because if you listen to commentary about Martin Amidu, his friends, party people talking about him, both from the majority and then the minority, you understand that he's a man of character, a man of integrity. And you saw what happened yesterday. He demonstrated it. So for us, I think nominating Martin Amidu and then he going through the vetting process yesterday was a very important step in the right direction. And we are hoping that once the appointment committee, yesterday I heard that they unanimously approved him. We hope that the president very soon would swear him in, and then we want him to start work as soon as possible.
Are we not putting so much hope in one single person that might end up biting us as a people? I mean, isn't it too much expectations on the shoulders of Mr. Martin?
Yeah, you know, in the fight against corruption, you don't only need one person. even though Martin Amidu is somebody we all agree has integrity,
right.
but it takes the collective efforts of us Ghanaians. I'll not say Martin Amidu has not got his own flaws, he has his own flaws, but it behoves on us as citizens, as anti-corruption crusaders, as anti-corruption campaigners, to ensure that we monitor whatever he's going to do. That's why at the Ghana Anti-Corruption Coalition, we are going to monitor all the objectives within the Office of the Special Prosecutor law that was sent to by the President. So we are going to monitor to ensure that all the things that they stated in the law are adhered to. Martin Amidu, his work, we are going to ensure that we monitor it. So I think putting too much hope in one person is not the right thing, but we need somebody. When Obama came, when he won the election in 2009, he spoke to the Ghanaian parliament, he said, we need strong institutions, not strong men. But for me, I think we need strong men and strong institutions.
Okay.
So if you have a strong man like Martin Amidu, and we have strong institutions, then we can be able to fight the war against corruption.
Well, that is the argument that's been made at the moment about whether or not a strong man is strong enough to push through a system that is so corrupt, a system that is terribly corrupt, and that is manned by those who benefit from the system of corruption. And we'll talk about that in a bit, but what were you expecting to hear, for example, from his answers or from the questions that you didn't hear? Would you say everything on your expectation list was covered yesterday?
Yeah, I think he was on point. I was surprised, though there were some little skirmishes with regards to...
Let's get a bit specific.
Like, for instance, the thing about children.
Okay.
And then there was another one, I think he had an exchange with the minority leader with regards to a joke he made.
Okay,
those were very flimsy things. But apart from that, based on the questions, I think both the majority and then the minority, they asked very useful questions with regards to his position and his character. Because you need somebody there who is clean, so to speak.
Right.
So I think they asked the right questions.
Speaking of what you just referred to, a lot of people have complained about his temperament, his ability to contain people. Now let's solve it, or let's deal with it. I think it's a Busa way that the minority leader said was supposed to be a joke, but he obviously wasn't taking it as a joke. And oftentimes you see in his posture when he was answering questions, you realize that he gets angry. Sometimes he's probably not angry, but he has a facial expression that says something else. Is this person? We may need that strength, that strength to deal with corruption, but is this a person who will be able to contain people enough to work with them, because he's going to have to collaborate with other people to achieve his goals?
I think you are right on that score, but he's human, and I believe that before he came to the vetting process, I mean the vetting room, what I suspect based on his demeanor yesterday is that he had some preconceived kind of attitude. He wanted to defend himself.
Okay, so he came on the defensive.
Yes,
because of what perhaps he was expecting.
He was expecting, especially from the minority, because he's been with them for a while, and then he started criticizing them. So he's human. I mean, so based on that history, perhaps he came there with that defensive attitude. But I was happy again because he made mention of, he gave a scenario of when he was Attorney General, and then he had to help one lady. Someone.
But you see, you can help people when they need help.
Yes. But I'm saying what I'm trying to make.
Temperament?
I'm trying to make a point.
Okay.
For you to understand that his demeanor doesn't necessarily take away his ability to do the job.
Okay.
You don't. He was angry for whatever reasons, because of the history, but it doesn't necessarily take away the essence that, or the.
So for you, you are basically unperturbed.
No, not at all.
You're not perturbed.
There are minor things he can deal with. I mean, I think he has worked with a lot of people who have spoken very well, especially Dadzie, Nana Dadzie, the former chief of staff during the PNDC, NDC. I mean, he spoke very well of him. I mean, so
he seemed to have worked with a lot of people, and he seemed to know a lot of people from when they were kids, and he doesn't miss words, and he doesn't miss any opportunity to refer them to where he knows them from. But speaking of his relationship with Nana Dadzie, this morning we've been speaking to him here on this channel. Nana Dadzie, he thinks that looking at the person, his character, and Nana Dadzie knowing the system and how some of the things run here in Ghana, he thinks that there's a potential walk away if you look at the two. Let's hear from Nana Dadzie. When we come back, we'll talk about the dynamics of that part of the conversation.
I do know, Martin, if anybody attempts to go that far to try and influence him, I'm sure he will back out. He definitely will back out. That's why I'm saying that, you see, we should, as a nation, we should be happy that we are bringing forth an institution, not an individual. You know, I wish we would move the debate from Martin Amidu as a person to the office of special prosecutor. Assuming that he comes and the very first case, they say, Martin, after this, you should look at it. So then I walk out. Then what happens? Do we drop the institution? You know? Yeah. But it's a very, 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 very grave institution. There have been, in fact, it's not really new in the sense that, because in our history, we've had attempts at setting up, quote, special prosecutors, you know, AFIC, PNDC, you know, all that. I think Mr. Martin Amidu must have, if my memory serves me right, served as part some time ago, you know. So the question is, why were those institutions, or why did those institutions not survive up to today? Why did they fail? In some cases, internal corruption within the system. You understand? If we set up a special prosecutor's office and it turns out to be internally corrupt, you see, it's used to extort money, you have a problem. I heard him right with his experience. He did say that he was going to prosecute outsiders, but he will also prosecute people inside his own establishment who go out. We should be fearful of this and put structures in place which will ensure that there are protocols for dealing with cases. You know, and that's why you have prosecutors also walking down the street, you know, asking people, give me this or give me that, otherwise I'll file a complaint against you.
And I personally say that's a very profound statement that Nana Dadzie makes there. We need the structures that will make his work easier, the structures that will not push him out. But he thinks that having known the person, if those structures don't exist and there are attempts to influence him and he tries to work it out and it's not, you know, working out, he will walk away. Yeah,
I agree with him. You know, my former professor was a classmate of him, and he used to tell me about him. And he
which of the hymns?
Professor David Miller. Yeah, Professor David Miller, UDS is not with UDS. He told me that if this man, he prefers to die a poor man doing the right thing than to die a rich man doing the bad thing.
But don't you have the fear? I personally have all the fear that looking at the way things have worked over the years in this country, if the so-called structures that we're calling for at the moment do not exist for him to be able to do his job, then we're going to have that situation that Mr. Ndebugri and Nana Dadzie are predicting. What does it live, or where does it live Ghana? After all the hope that we seem to have placed on the man, after all the excitement and the jubilation after his appointment, where does it leave us? You
know, if you look at our history, especially with regards to anti-corruption, you realize that there are a lot of anti-corruption laws within the system. And there are a lot of institutions that are supposed to fight in corruption that help civil society, like the Ghana Anti-Corruption Coalition too. Like we have the SHRAG, we have IOCO and the others. You know, the problem with corruption in this country is that we have leakages within the system. Our institutions are very weak. So if the institutions are weak, and we think that Martin Amidu, based on the Office of the Special Prosecutor law, is somebody who can come and strengthen the institutions, why not?
Have you seen the bill yourself, the law yourself?
Yes.
Are you convinced that it is something that can support a one person, a one person believed to be strong, do you think that the law is enough to back such a person to deal with the sort of problem we're looking at?
The law itself has some challenges, and you know, he wrote an article about it.
Right.
He was asked yesterday why he made a critique and if he's now willing to work. So I'm not saying it's a perfect law, but I think we can make amendments, not only on that law, but we need to also look at Shraj, Yoko. I mean, we need to strengthen all these institutions. I mean, and especially with where the leakages are. He made mention of the ports. I mean, there are a lot of leakages there. So how can we ensure that there are systems in place to ensure that these leakages are closed? Okay. So that we don't have money, throwing money out.
If we should lose, if we should, and I'm not predicting doom, but if Martin Amidu, for example, and this is my final question, Martin Amidu is to walk away because things didn't work as he expected, because people are trying to influence him and he's pushing through the system and he's getting to a stalemate and he walks away, what would you personally do? And if you were to advise government as an anti-corruption coalition, what will be the move that you make? I mean, what would you say?
I think he's not the only man of integrity in this country. I mean, there are lots of people who can equally do the job. So if he walks away because what he wants to be done is not done based on the law, we can always get somebody. And I don't think that will happen, because I think that even with the kind of character he has, I think if the president were to do something in the future, Martin Amidu is not far from prosecuting him. So this is a very independent man. I don't predict doom for the law, the office, and him.
We hope
I think that we will have a long way to go. We are very happy that
he's
been nominated.
Yes. We hope so. And mind you, a lot of people, including Mr. Amidu himself, have said that the law setting up the office itself ought to be looked at once again. And so, and he is just confirming, saying that, or repeating that as well. Mr. Amidu himself says that he's not coming in to succeed per se, but he's coming in to give it a try. He can appreciate the sort of problems that are waiting. He can appreciate the sort of blockades that he may have to encounter delivering on this goal. But we wish him all the best, and hopefully, if he is approved, I mean, like it seems like 90% of the work has already been done. If it's approved, Mr. Martin Amidu will be ready to start work next week, which we're told. We'll see how it goes. Thank you very much for coming. I've been talking to Abdul Kudus Hussein. He's a communications officer, the Ghana Anti-Corruption Coalition.